Hey gang, thank you for joining me at 2 Texas Lobsters React, and today I've got a great video that was recommended by IK Vetch, who is a subscriber on our channel. Thank you so much for recommending this. I think it's going to be a great addition to the channel, and if you have anything that you would like to add, please put it in the comments below and I will look at it and try to do a video on it as soon as possible. But we're going to go ahead and look at this. This is called the Polish-German War. World War II series, September 1st, 1939. This is by the World War II channel, so if you get a chance to check that out, you might want to do that. A lot of great information there. Anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and start our tour through World War II, September 1st, 1939. Here we go.
On September 1st, 1939, the German army invades Poland, and the Polish-German War of 1939 begins. What? Did you think I was going to say something else? Because that's all it is. A war, an undeclared war, between two European nations. My name is Indy Nidell, and this channel, for the next 6 years, is going to cover the events of that war week by week in real time as it grows and spirals into the deadliest conflict in human history. There will also be special episodes that sum up how the world got to this point. Specials about the people, the weapons, the technology of the war, and much more. There will be crossovers and collaborations with other channels and historians, and even a series on the war against humanity fought in countries on both sides. If you would really like to see how the world went from the end of the Great War to the beginning of this one though, we've made an entire series called Between Two Wars that not only covers the events of the interwar period, but specifically how they relate to the world situation in 1939. The link is in the description. I know that some of you will point out that the events in Japan and China in the 1930s are part and parcel of the Second World War. Some see the Spanish Civil War as a beginning point, and some see the years 1914 to 1945 as a second 30 Years' War. All these arguments have merit, but I'm going to start...
Can I just say how impressed I already am? The commitment to the material and the channel is top-notch, man. Wow, if the video series is as good as his costume and studio, woo, we are in for a treat. Let's get back into it.
Here, on September 1st, 1939, at the beginning of the Polish-German War. Though it was actually supposed to begin already at the beginning of the week. On August 25th, Adolf Hitler orders the German attack to begin the 26th, but cancels the order at the last minute after learning Britain and Poland have signed a formal alliance, and that Benito Mussolini would not bring Italy into a war at this point on Germany's side. But on the 31st, Hitler decides to invade the following day. He signs the order at noon, and German troops move to the border. At 8 p.m., the radio station at Gleiwitz is attacked. The attackers are SS men dressed in Polish uniforms. SS is Schutzstaffel, the Nazi paramilitary organization used for security, surveillance, and terror. Wow. Anyhow, they leave behind the bodies of some concentration camp inmates in Polish uniforms. When German troops begin their advance across the border the next morning, Hitler gives this Polish attack as one of the reasons for invasion. That same evening, the Soviet Union, who had signed a sort of neutrality pact with Germany just over a week ago, beats the Japanese army far to the east. In fighting on the Mongolian border, Georgy Zhukov's forces overcome the final resistance of the Japanese 6th Army at Khalkhin Gol. So, as one war is coming to an end, another is beginning. Now, that Soviet-Japanese conflict is an undeclared war that has gone on for several months along the border. Although there'd been tension since Japan occupied Manchuria in 1931 and set up the puppet state of Manchukuo, and there were more and more frequent border clashes. I'll talk more about this in a few weeks, and we'll also cover Japan's invasion and war with China in between two wars. But here, in 1939, the Japanese on one side, and the Mongolians and Russians on the other, have different ideas as to what the actual border is. The fighting had escalated over the summer, but had become a stalemate by the end of July. Zhukov broke that stalemate by attacking on August 20th with artillery and aircraft in the first fighter-bomber offensive in Soviet history. Over 50,000 Soviet and Mongolian troops were on the east bank of the Khalkhin Gol River. As the infantry crossed the river, and it, the Air Force, and the artillery pinned down the Japanese center, armored units went around the flanks and encircled the Japanese from both sides. They were unable to break free, and the Russians kept hitting them with artillery, and by now, the Japanese forces on the Mongolian side of the border are destroyed. On September 15th, Japan and the Soviet Union will agree to a ceasefire. I mentioned that Germany and the Soviet Union had signed a pact, and they had, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, named after the two nations' foreign ministers who signed it. This was a non-aggression neutrality pact between the two, and it laid out Poland, Romania, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia into German and Soviet spheres of interest, anticipating some sort of possible territorial rearrangement of these countries in the very near future. Back in April, Stalin had actually proposed a military alliance with Britain and France, which was received with mixed feelings. In July, they began talks, but kept running into the stumbling block of Russian troops entering Polish soil if there was a need to contain Germany. The Poles figured, and rightly, that once there, those troops would never leave, so those talks weren't really going anywhere. But a pact with Germany, well, that would give Stalin what he wanted without having to fight, and for Hitler, it would divide potential enemies. Neither Berlin nor Moscow saw Poland as a legitimate state, and its borders had been established just 20 years ago in the Treaty of Versailles. True, the Poles had beaten the Red Army to secure their independence, famously demolishing it at the Battle of Warsaw. But Hitler...
If you don't believe that we're about to get into another world war, this stuff is identical to what's going on now. Yeah. The places and the people and the things and all that are different. But this is exactly how world wars start. Man, I'm a little scared, honestly. I don't know what the future brings, but things are looking pretty bleak.
Hitler and Stalin thought that Poland's whole existence was owed to Allied interference. The Poles, for their part, though they were aware that Russia was the enemy, were not aware of any immediate Soviet plans for Poland and were focused on the obvious threat of Germany. They knew that their army was not up for the task of beating the Wehrmacht, the German armed forces. If an attack came, their hopes were for an Anglo-French offensive in the West that would split the German forces. Well, that German attack now comes. On September 1st at 4:45 a.m., Germany invades Poland with no declaration of war. Operation Fallweiss, Plan White, is 53 German divisions, including 6 armored. General Walter von Brauchitsch is the commander-in-chief, but here's the roll call. Fedor von Bock leads Army Group North, which is made up of the 3rd Army under Georg von Küchler and the 4th Army under Gunther von Kluge. General Gerd von Rundstedt leads Army Group South, Johannes Blaskowitz with the 8th Army, Walter von Reichenau the 10th, and Wilhelm List the 14th. The Panzer Corps is under Heinz Guderian and Paul von Kleist. Air support, some 1,600 aircraft, is led by Albert Kesselring and Alexander Löhr. Rundstedt's forces advance from Silesia, and this is the main German attack. Blaskowitz is on the left, heading towards Poznan, List on the right towards Krakow, with Reichenau the main thrust in the center to the Vistula River between Warsaw and Sandomierz. Kuchler from East Prussia heads south towards Warsaw and the Bug River to the east. Kluge will cross the Polish corridor and then head south. The Polish have 23 divisions, though 7 more are being put together. 1 armored division and not a whole lot of artillery. They do have a lot of cavalry, and this is a good time to dispel the myth that Polish cavalry spent the war attacking tanks with lances. Although this day does see a Polish cavalry charge to cover retreating infantry, which scatters German infantry, but behind that was armored cars with machine guns that kills half the attackers within minutes. There are 2, and only 2 occasions, according to Max Hastings, in which Polish horsemen engage tanks. Anyhow, the Polish reserves are called up August 31st, so they're not yet mobilized. They have 500 planes, but these are obsolete compared to the Germans. Polish commander Edward Rydz-Smigły has his strongest forces in the northwest, especially Poznan and the Polish corridor. His plan is to hold the Germans to only gradual gains. However, since he's put his men so far forward, he risks serious defeat if his units are overrun before reinforcements from the reserves can arrive. The German method of attack is anything but a repeat of 1914. First, sudden air attacks will try to destroy the Polish Air Force while it's still on the ground. Bombers will go for railways and roads, but also drop their payloads on civilian centers, creating mass panic and confusion. This chaos is made worse by aircraft also machine gunning civilian refugees fleeing from advancing soldiers. Just in the first few hours, the Polish government...
This is the same exact thing you're seeing with Russia, that dirty country. The people aren't dirty, but that government and Putin, you sack of crap. Same thing you're seeing right now. Tell me this doesn't mirror exactly what happened here.
Reports that 130 Poles are killed by air raids on Polish towns like Warsaw and Gdynia. Further attacks come by land, of course. Waves of motorized infantry and light tanks push as far ahead as possible. Heavier tanks make their way through the countryside, bypassing fortified positions. Eventually, the infantry, supported by artillery, will come after to mop up whatever pockets of resistance remain. Hitler's plan here is not simply to regain territory lost in 1918 at the end of the Great War. He wants to impose German rule on Poland. In fact, behind the infantry, he has sent in 3 SS Death's Head regiments to take care of police and security measures in the new territory. Today, September 1st, at Sachsenhausen concentration camp, one of their bases, their commander, Theodor Eicke, explains to his officers just what those police and security measures are. In protecting Hitler's Reich, Eicke explained, the SS would have to incarcerate or annihilate every enemy of Nazism, a task that would challenge even the absolute and inflexible severity which the Death's Head regiments had learned in the concentration camps. Britain and France demand that Germany withdraw from Poland. The British army is mobilized, and the evacuation of young children from London and other areas thought vulnerable begins on this day 1 of the Polish-German War of 1939. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf, his political manifesto autobiography, that not only should people of the same blood be in the same Reich, but that once this had been achieved, then Germany would have the moral right to take foreign territory. He lays out his policy on page 1. But even though every German couple was given one by the registry office when they married, and even though he had steered Germany towards war for years, a great many people did not take him seriously and chose to believe his recent statements that he did not want war. They should have instead believed him when he wrote this about his plans once all the Germans were part of the Reich. The plow is then the sword, and the tears of war will produce the daily bread for generations to come.
Wow, that is heavy.
If you would like to check out that Between Two Wars series and get more background to this series, you can click right here for that. And if you'd like this series to continue and to improve, then please support us at patreon.com.
Wow, man, I am so impressed with the quality of this publication, this production. This is going to be good. Please tune in to the next episode of this with me, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.